Unlike some other shooting sports, the course of fire for a high-power rifle match is pretty standardized. This means that you can expect the same targets, distances, and scoring rounds to be the same at most matches, whether you shoot in Missouri, Ohio, Indiana, or Wisconsin. Let's look at a typical high-power rifle course of fire and how you, as a competitor, navigates through it. It's easier to think of a high-power match as 4 separate stages. Each stage has a unique combination of target, distance from that target, the pace of fire, and the number of shots scored. The most common course of fire is the 80-shot regional course. The 4 stages of this course consist of 20-shot slow fire standing at 200 yards, 20 shots rapid fire sitting at 200 yards, 20 shots rapid fire prone at 300 yards, and 20 shots slow fire prone at 600 yards. We'll take these one by one. While it isn't mandatory, most matches will hold the standing stage first. Here, the competitors are in the standing position at the 200-yard line. The targets are downrange, and everyone is shooting slow fire. A slow fire stage is where a single shot is loaded, fired, and scored individually. Let's look at this example in the standing position. Here, the shooter has an unloaded rifle with an empty magazine and the bolt open. You can see the targets downrange, and the other shooters on the line are firing on their own points. Our shooter reaches for a single cartridge and loads the rifle through the ejection port while keeping the rifle pointed downrange. He closes the bolt, shoulders the rifle, and begins his shot process. The rifle is fired and the target is pulled down for scoring. After a few seconds for scoring, the target comes back up and the shooter is free to load and fire his next shot. This process repeats until all 20 scoring shots are fired. The second stage also takes place on the 200-yard line, and the target is the same as standing. This time, the competitors are in a seated position, and the pace of fire is called rapid fire. Rapid fire is where 10 shots are fired in a string, one right after another, while the targets remain exposed for the entire time period. Typically, the 20 scored shots of a rapid fire string are broken down into 2 identical strings of 10 shots each. After one string is fired and scored, the targets are cleaned up, and the second string is then fired to make a total of 20 shots. Let's look at how a single 10-shot string of rapid fire is conducted. The string starts with our stalwart competitor in the seated position. Also note that the sling is on his arm, and he has 2 magazines on the ground. One magazine has 2 rounds, and the other has 8 rounds. He'll need these in a few seconds. Looking down range, we can see that the targets are situated at what is called half-mast. That means that we can see the tops of the targets, and it also signals that the target pullers are ready to begin the string. As soon as the targets begin their motion upward, the competitor can begin loading the rifle and firing his string. The time limit for each string in this stage is 60 seconds. The time is started when all of the targets reach the top of their travel. I'll add a timer on the screen when the targets are all the way in the air so you can gauge how fast the shooter fires his shots. As we start things off, watch the targets begin moving upward, the competitor loading the first magazine, closing the bolt, and beginning to fire. You can hear other shooters on the firing line starting to fire on their targets. Let's pause here a moment. Now that the competitor has shot the 2 rounds, he pulls his first magazine out, sets it aside, loads his second magazine, closes the bolt, and fires his remaining 8 rounds. Even though Mr. Nilla Wafer here has used up over a quarter of his time with 8 shots still to be fired, he knows the cadence that he needs to finish within the time limit while still firing well-aimed shots. Let's continue with the string. Once again, 2 of those strings are fired to make the 20 shots required for this stage. The third stage of the course is also rapid fire, but it is shot from the 300-yard line and the prone position. The time limit is 10 seconds longer than sitting. That means 70 seconds from when the targets come up to when they go back down. Otherwise, the procedure is identical to the sitting stage.
Is the line ready? Ready on the right, ready on the left. At the beginning, you may fire when your targets appear.
The fourth and final stage takes place all the way back at the 600-yard line. This one is prone as well, but is conducted slow fire. Just like standing, each shot is loaded, fired, and scored individually. While that covers the generalities of the 4 stages of a high-power match, there are a couple extra parts that I want to mention. Before each stage, you will be given a preparation period. This allows you to get your gear ready, get in position, work on your natural point of aim, dry fire, and generally prepare to shoot the stage. The preparation period is 3 minutes long, and the targets will be exposed. In addition to the 20 shots that you will be scored for, at most matches you will have the opportunity to fire 2 sighting shots before each stage. These shots are all fired slow fire regardless of which stage comes after it. So maybe a better way to describe the 4 stages is like this. Now, this wasn't the only course of fire that you might encounter in high power, but it's the most common. Plus, if you understand how these stages work, you will have no trouble understanding any variation based on them. Of course, the best way to understand the high power rifle competition course of fire is to go and attend a high power match yourself.
Hey, I had to take extra time, Mark, because I had to give him a smiley face.